Today, we will use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events. 10 homes have been destroyed by bushfires in Perth, Australia, according to the latest news, with authorities warning it could take days to bring the situation under control, raising fears the number of people in distress could rise further. More than 150 firefighters were still battling a blaze in the city's northern suburbs on the evening of November 24th, forcing hundreds of local families to leave and sending embers raining down on their homes. Residents living in the suburb of Tappin said a fire broke out in a nearby bush reserve on Wednesday night. The wind was so strong that embers went sideways over fences and into backyards, and about 20 firefighters and local residents used garden hoses to put out the fierce blaze. Thank you for liking, leaving comments, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update every day. Throughout Thursday, water bombs dropped by helicopters and fire crews continued to battle the blaze in sweltering 39°C heat. Western Australia is being hit by a severe heat wave, with temperatures reaching 40 degrees Celsius in Perth on November 24th and wind gusts as high as 80 kilometers per hour. As low-flying firefighting aircraft circled overhead, residents hosed down their homes and packed up their cars in preparation for evacuations. Others installed sprinklers on their roofs or stood in their front yards, watching the smoke approaching their homes. Western Australia Deputy Prime Minister Rita said the situation for firefighters was challenging and many properties had been significantly damaged. It will take time to restore critical infrastructure operations after multiple utility poles were damaged. Teams are assessing property damage in order to notify evacuated residents, fearing more destroyed homes may be discovered. Residents in most affected areas are already evacuating. More than 1,000 properties in the bushfire area were without power on Thursday night, but more dedicated residents are joining the heroic team to fight the fire. More than 500 emergency services personnel have been deployed. Was called to the scene. Australian Prime Minister Cook said that 18 houses have been confirmed to have been destroyed. According to the affected state government, the fire broke out at noon on November 23rd, and by the weekend, 18 square kilometers of shrubs and grass had been burned. For a long time, all parts of the world have been frequently attacked by forest fires. The causes of forest fires are complex. The first is natural causes. In drought or hot weather conditions, lightning strikes can easily cause fires. Especially in the hot summer, only a small fire source or spark can easily spread quickly among dry trees and vegetation, triggering large-scale forest fires. Secondly, 90% of bushfires are caused by human activities. For example, tourists light fires or discard cigarette butts in the forest, and workers use fire or welding during construction and other improper operations. In addition, there are also some man-made arson incidents. Building expansion around wooded areas also increases fire risk. Then, there are the effects of climate change. Global warming has caused higher temperatures and reduced rainfall in some areas, causing forests and surrounding areas to dry out and increasing the risk of fires. At the same time, climate anomalies will also increase the probability of lightning strikes. If extreme weather continues to increase in the future, the risk of forest fires will further increase. What cannot be ignored is the lack of fire protection measures. Due to insufficient forest fire prevention management and lack of necessary fire prevention equipment and manpower in some areas, It is difficult to quickly and effectively control a fire once it breaks out. In addition, people in some areas lack sufficient understanding of the importance of fire prevention, which can easily lead to fires. At the same time, some topographic and landform features can easily trigger the occurrence and spread of bushfires. First of all, mountainous and hilly areas are more likely to burn due to their complex terrain and smooth airflow. Fires spread quickly on steep hillside areas and are difficult to control. Fires in canyon terrain are more difficult to extinguish because hot air rises and creates upward winds, making the fires grow rapidly. Secondly, mountains with coniferous forests have high oil content and strong flammability, making it more difficult to control a fire once it catches fire. The probability of fires in evergreen coniferous forests is higher than that of other types of woodlands. At the same time, arid and semi-arid areas are more likely to be exposed to the sun due to less rain and clouds, and the vegetation and soil moisture content is low. Once a fire breaks out in these areas, it spreads quickly and is difficult to control. More importantly, areas with discontinuous vegetation coverage are more likely to have fire spread, have multiple fire heads, and are difficult to control. On the bare surface without vegetation coverage, combustible materials are easily exposed to the sun and are more likely to catch fire. At the same time, in woodlands with well-developed underground root systems, even if the surface is covered with snow, the roots of underground trees can continue to burn, forming hidden and stubborn fires that are extremely difficult to extinguish. Affected by terrain barriers, in areas with weak winds, the fire head cannot be effectively controlled, and the fire spread will take longer. Once caught in a bushfire, personal escape methods and techniques are particularly important. First of all, take action immediately after discovering a fire without hesitation. Quickly identify the direction in which the fire is spreading and evacuate quickly at right angles to it. Choose a safe evacuation route and avoid areas with fast spreading and violent fires. Secondly, when escaping, the head and key parts should be covered with wet towels to prevent smoke and dust. Try to keep your head down and bend over. Cover your mouth and nose with your hands or clothes to filter the inhaled smoke as much as possible. Try to find water to avoid, as the air quality around the water is better. Make way for rescue vehicles along the way to avoid traffic jams that may affect firefighting. Pay attention to your surroundings and be alert to secondary disasters such as fallen trees and telephone poles. If you encounter poisonous smoke, you can hold your breath briefly to prevent inhaling a large amount of harmful gases. At the same time, it is crucial to choose a safe evacuation path. You can choose fire-resistant areas such as along river banks, rubble fields, swamps, and golf courses. You can also choose to evacuate along the terrain ridgelines, avoid valleys and canyons, and be vigilant on both sides. The fire raced up the mountain. If you are surrounded by fire, find water as soon as possible and enter the water. Covering your face with a wet towel can also increase your chance of survival. If it catches fire, it can extinguish itself by rolling quickly on the ground. Don't panic in serious situations and stay calm as much as possible. More importantly, after escaping, find the gathering place and report the number of people. And report the situation to the fire department. Wait for rescue in a safe area and receive timely medical treatment. In the future, we should pay attention to weather warnings to prevent the fire from rebounding. Bushfires are extremely threatening, personal safety is paramount, and safe evacuation is the top priority. At the same time, if houses and communities are close to the fire, measures should be taken in advance. First of all, we must raise fire prevention awareness, clean up several hundred meters around residential areas. There is no need to plant flammable vegetation, and roofs should not be covered with turf. Prepare firefighting equipment such as water pumps, hoses, buckets, and sandbags at home. Develop an escape plan and drill and implement it. Secondly, strengthen the fire protection measures of the house, such as fire-resistant door and window glass, fire-resistant walls, etc. It is best to choose fire-resistant materials for the roof. The socket of the outdoor railing should be unplugged to avoid short circuit and fire. A fire prevention ditch can be dug next to the house and cleaned regularly. At the same time, trees in residential areas should be pruned at intervals to prevent gaps in the tree crowns from being too dense. Plant fire-resistant tree species and set up fireproof isolation belts at key locations. Be careful to stay away from areas with flammable vegetation such as bushes. More importantly, communities should reserve certain disaster relief materials in advance and establish disaster early warning mechanisms and emergency shelters. And regularly carry out disaster drills, escape and evacuation drills, etc. Residents should pay attention to weather warnings and improve their ability to respond to various disasters. In addition, evacuate in advance according to the direction of the forest fire spread to avoid being trapped by the fire. Turn off gas meters, etc. during evacuation to reduce secondary disasters. Do not return after evacuating and wait for safety notification from the government. It is worth mentioning that the government and fire departments should strengthen inspections of forest areas and put out fires immediately when fires are discovered. Improve infrastructure construction and ensure water and electricity supply. It is also necessary to strengthen publicity and education on disaster prevention science and improve the ability of all people to prevent and reduce disasters. In the face of forest fires, rescue departments need to take detailed and systematic emergency measures. First, establish a scientific and unified forest fire emergency command system. The responsibilities of different regional command departments should be clearly defined, and professional rescue teams and volunteer organizations should also be included in the system to be responsible for specific rescue tasks. It is necessary to strengthen information reporting and resource dispatching between departments to exert comprehensive synergy. Secondly, use cutting-edge technological means to conduct disaster assessment. For example, methods such as satellite remote sensing and drone aerial survey can be used to comprehensively grasp the distribution of fire heads, smoke diffusion range, spread speed, topographic and geomorphological characteristics and other details in the fire scene, and establish digital disaster files. It is also necessary to use machine learning algorithms to calculate fire spread trends by analogy, conduct risk predictions for surrounding areas, and achieve intelligent disaster early warning. Then, rationally allocate and use firefighting resources. Select firefighting vehicles, aircraft, and equipment that are adapted to the topography of different fire sites. Transport enough firefighters and volunteers into the disaster area, and form a joint effort to extinguish the fire in key locations and key areas to ensure that the fire is controlled. Safety factors, environmental impact, etc. must be considered to formulate a scientific firefighting plan. Make full use of digital technology to command and dispatch resource investment. In addition, logistics support and livelihood assistance should be properly deployed. Arrange disaster-stricken people in shelters and provide food, medical care, warmth, and other life support. Establish a rapid transport mechanism for injured patients. Volunteers and charitable organizations of all types must take the initiative and provide in-depth frontline support. Finally, after the disaster, a comprehensive damage assessment should be carried out and a scientific recovery and reconstruction plan should be formulated. Summarize experiences and lessons learned in disaster response and continuously improve systematic rescue capabilities. And prepare enough disaster relief materials and financial reserves to ensure resource guarantee for the next rescue. In the face of bushfires, countries have been looking for effective prevention and avoidance measures. The first is to improve fire prevention policies and regulations, such as standardizing and managing the construction of high-risk areas around forest areas, controlling human activities in forest areas, etc., setting up forest area fire prevention columns and professional teams to strengthen fire prevention monitoring of forest fire danger level zones, making key protection easy areas subject to fire hazard. Secondly, it is necessary to strengthen investment in forestry science and technology and strengthen the innovation and research and development of high-tech prevention and control technologies such as bushfire early warning and fire avoidance, such as satellite remote sensing monitoring of fire danger areas, the development and application of new technologies such as drones and firefighting robots, etc., from technically improved fire prevention and control capabilities. Next, improve forest fire prevention facilities, set up fire isolation belts, fire escapes, professional fire prevention facilities, water storage pools, etc., and strengthen the construction of the entire forest fire prevention system and facility network. Establish a multi-level monitoring and early warning system to strengthen key monitoring of high-risk fire prevention points and complex fire danger areas. More importantly, publicity and education on forest fire prevention should be carried out through multiple channels to improve the public's awareness of fire safety. Distribute fire prevention manuals and garbage bags to people entering and leaving the jungle area, and set up notice boards and fire prevention patrols to guide people to increase their awareness of fire prevention. It is worth mentioning that it is necessary to strengthen government-enterprise cooperation and improve disaster relief mechanisms. Establish a unified forest fire prevention command organization, emergency rescue team, etc. Formulate scientific risk prevention and control and disaster plans, and regularly hold jungle fire prevention analogy drills and engineering technology innovations. At the same time, it is necessary to strengthen youth forest fire ban education, cultivate environmental awareness, and establish fire avoidance awareness. Forge a comprehensive fire prevention system with organic organizational collaboration, government leadership, departmental mutual assistance, and social participation. Realize normalized, scientific and refined forest fire prevention. When it comes to dealing with forest fires, some countries have relatively mature methods and technologies. For example, the United States has rich experience in dealing with forest fires. The western United States is dry and rainless, and forest fires occur more frequently. The United States has established a fully functional national forest fire management system and uses high-tech means to improve fire monitoring and early warning, risk assessment, and firefighting capabilities. Specifically, the U.S. Forest Fire Management Bureau uses satellite monitoring systems to instantly grasp the distribution of fire spots and smoke spread trends across the country and assess fire danger levels. Once a fire is discovered, ground and aviation maintenance forces are quickly dispatched to put out the fire. They have various types of professional firefighting aircraft and well-equipped ground firefighting vehicles, which can rush to the fire scene within an hour. In addition, the impact of climate change is becoming increasingly obvious, which requires the unity and cooperation of all countries and human society to jointly respond to the severe challenges of climate change and mitigate its harm to the global environment and human society. Thank you for liking, leaving a message, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update the latest news from around the world every day. Continue to use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events.